The sister no one took seriously. Hi. I'm not here for sympathy. I'm here because sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one holding all the power. My name is Rachel Anderson. I'm 32 years old, and for most of my adult life, my family treated me like background noise. Not cruel in an obvious way, not violent, just dismissive, the kind of dismissal that chips away at you slowly. My older brother Marcus is 35, loud, charismatic, the kind of man who repeats his own accomplishments until they become mythology. He runs Anderson Construction Group, the regional firm our father built from a single pickup truck and stubborn ambition. When Dad stepped back, Marcus stepped up, and he never let anyone forget it. I took a different route. I studied civil engineering at Georgia Tech, graduated with honors, later earned my MBA from Wharton. Instead of joining the family company, I entered the construction technology space. I believed the industry was outdated, too much paper, too many delays, too many expensive mistakes. To my family, though, I played with computers. That was the phrase. Dad's retirement celebration was held at Pine Ridge Country Club. 200 guests, open bar, slideshow of 40 years of grit and growth. Marcus orchestrated everything. He moved through the crowd like a mayor on election night. I arrived quietly. Navy dress. Same Honda Accord I've driven for years. I don't care about cars or designer labels. Comfort beats performance art. Marcus spotted me quickly. Everyone, this is my little sister, he said, smiling too wide. She works in tech. The word tech landed like finger painting. Someone asked what I actually did. Before I could answer, Marcus laughed. Something with apps, I think. Startups and buzzwords. I smiled politely. What none of them knew was that 6 years ago, I founded a construction management software company. What none of them knew was that our platform was now used by hundreds of firms nationwide, including Anderson Construction. For 3 years, Marcus signed the contract himself, never once reading the founder's name. I kept it quiet intentionally. I didn't want family politics contaminating what I built. I wanted merit, not proximity, to define me. But silence has a cost. 2 Christmases ago, Marcus suggested I get serious about my career. Last Thanksgiving, Mom implied I should consider an administrative job at the family company. Dad didn't defend me. He simply assumed I hadn't done much. And the worst part, they weren't being malicious. They genuinely believed I had failed. That night at the retirement party, Marcus raised a glass and gave a long speech about real business, about blueprints, about concrete, about understanding what actually matters. Then he looked straight at me. Some people think sending emails makes them executives. He joked. Rachel probably thinks she could run a construction firm. Honey, can you even read a blueprint? The room laughed. I smiled. Because what Marcus didn't realize, what no one in that room realized, was that his entire operation ran on systems I designed. And that night, I decided I was done being quiet. But I didn't speak up right away. Not yet. Because sometimes the most powerful response isn't immediate. It's strategic. And what happened next? It didn't just silence the laughter. It shut down something much bigger. The switch no one saw coming. I didn't react immediately. That's what Marcus expected. He expected an eye roll. Maybe a quiet retreat to the bathroom. Maybe a tight smile and another swallow of humiliation. Instead, I excused myself and stepped onto the terrace overlooking the golf course. The March air was cool. Calm. Steady. Unlike me. For 10 years I had swallowed comments. jokes, concern, advice I never asked for. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself success was enough. But something about that speech, about him mocking my competence in front of his subcontractors, his partners, people whose respect directly affected his business, shifted something in me. This wasn't a family joke anymore. This was professional disrespect. And I don't tolerate that. I pulled out my phone and opened the administrative dashboard of my company, Buildstream Technologies, Anderson Construction Group, 14 active projects, Quant 12, 4 million in combined contract value, every schedule, every compliance checklist, every subcontractor coordination log, all running through my platform. I scrolled calmly. Then I drafted a short email to my executive team. Subject immediate review, Anderson Construction account, body initiate compliance audit under professional conduct clause, prepare service suspension protocol, await final authorization. I didn't hit send yet. I went back inside. Marcus was near the bar, energized by the attention. His lead subcontractors, Jim, Tom, and Steve, stood around him. These were critical relationships, the kind that determined whether projects ran smoothly or collapsed. Marcus spotted me. There she is, he said loudly. We were just explaining how real construction works. Jim offered a polite smile. So what exactly do you build in tech? Software for construction management, I said evenly. Marcus chuckled. She likes to call herself a CEO. I looked at him. You said earlier I probably can't read a blueprint, I said calmly. Why would you assume that? He laughed again. Because construction isn't theoretical. It's boots on the ground experience. Not dashboards. Dashboards. Interesting choice of word. I pulled out my phone again. What are you doing? He asked, checking something. And I hit send. Within 30 seconds, my CO responded, ready when you are. Marcus continued talking about revenue, about legacy, about how hard it is to run real company. I looked at him steadily. Out of curiosity, I asked, what project management system are you using right now for your 14 active builds? He shrugged. Buildstream. It's solid. Do you know who owns it? He smirked. Some tech founder. Why? At that exact moment, his phone buzzed, then buzzed again, then rang. Jim's phone vibrated. Tom checked his screen. Steve frowned at his notification. Marcus looked down. His expression changed. What the hell? He muttered. Jim spoke first. It says Anderson Construction's account access has been suspended. Tom added quietly, same here, shared projects locked. Marcus stared at his phone, refreshing frantically. Must be a glitch, he said. I looked him in the eyes. It's not a glitch. The laughter from earlier, gone. The room had shifted, and Marcus still had no idea who he had just humiliated. But he was about to find out. The moment the room went silent. It's not a glitch. Marcus stared at me like I had spoken in another language. What are you talking about? He demanded, half laughing, half panicking. You can't possibly know what's going on. Jim was scrolling through his phone rapidly. Marcus, this isn't a system crash. It says executive level suspension. Tom looked up. All shared timelines are locked. We can't access inspection schedules. Steve added quietly, our material deliveries are coordinated through this platform. Marcus shook his head. This is ridiculous. I'll call support. You won't get through? I said calmly. That's when he really looked at me. Not like a sister. Not like a punchline. Like a variable he hadn't calculated. What did you do? He asked slowly. I held his gaze. I enforced a clause in our service agreement. He repeated. I turned my phone around and opened the BuildStream website. The executive team page loaded instantly. My photo, my name, Rachel Anderson, founder and CEO. Marcus' face drained of color. The room, once buzzing with post-speech energy, fell completely silent. That's not possible, he whispered. It is, I replied evenly. BuildStream Technologies, 6 years old, 180 employees, used by over 300 construction firms, including yours. Jim muttered something under his breath. Tom stared at my phone, then at Marcus. You didn't know? Marcus didn't answer. He couldn't. You signed the contract yourself, I continued. Section 12, Professional Conduct and Vendor Protection. Public defamation or reputational damage constitutes grounds for immediate termination. I didn't defame you. He shot back weakly. You just told a room full of your subcontractors that I'm incompetent, that I'm pretending to be an executive, that I don't understand construction. He swallowed. That was a joke. Professional vendors don't find humiliation funny. His phone buzzed again. This time he answered. What do you mean locked out? He snapped into the receiver. No, don't tell the client that yet. Just give me a second. He hung up and looked at me like someone watching a building collapse in slow motion. Rachel, you can't do this. We have inspections this week. Supplier contracts. We're mid-phase on 3 builds. I'm aware, I said quietly. Then fix it. Why? That question hit harder than anything else. Because we're family, he said. Were we acting like family 5 minutes ago? He flinched. Jim stepped back. Marcus, if we don't have platform coordination, we can't continue electrical scheduling. Tom nodded reluctantly. Same for us. Steve added. Liability risk is too high without centralized tracking. Marcus looked around desperately as the foundation under him began to crack. You're seriously doing this? He said to me, disbelief mixing with fear. No, I corrected. I'm responding. For 10 years, I had stayed quiet to keep peace. Tonight, I chose accountability, and the consequences had only just begun. Because what Marcus still didn't understand was how deeply his company depended on something he never respected. And by morning, the real damage would start to surface. When the dominoes started falling, the party didn't end, it unraveled. Within minutes, the contractors who had been laughing beside Marcus were no longer smiling. They were stepping aside, whispering urgently into their phones. Jim returned first, his expression tight. Marcus, my partners are already asking questions. If Anderson doesn't have live access to BuildStream, we can't continue coordinated scheduling. Tom nodded. We've got inspections in 3 days. Without centralized documentation, we're exposed. Steve was more direct. Our legal team won't allow it. We'd be operating blind. Marcus looked from one face to another, disbelief slowly turning into panic. Just give me until tomorrow, he pleaded. We'll migrate to another platform. I shook my head slightly. Migration takes weeks. Training takes longer, and your teams don't maintain parallel offline logs anymore. His eyes snapped to mine. How do you know that? Because user activity metrics show 98% of your project managers operate exclusively inside our system. Silence again. Data doesn't argue. It just exposes. Dad had walked over during the commotion. His retirement celebration now reduced to confusion and tension. What is happening? He asked. Marcus answered for me. She shut down our project system. 14 active builds. Everything's frozen. Dad looked at me like he was trying to see someone new. You own this software? Wes, the one we've been paying for? Yes. For how long? 6 years. The realization hit him in slow waves. You never told us? You never asked. I replied softly. Marcus' phone rang again. This time he didn't even step away. He listened. His shoulders sagged. The Riverside client just requested confirmation we still have platform access. He muttered. And what did you tell them? I asked. He didn't answer. Because he couldn't lie. Jim cleared his throat. Marcus, I'm sorry. But until this is resolved, we're pausing our subcontract involvement. Tom and Steve echoed similar sentiments. In less than 10 minutes, 30% of his operational capacity had evaporated, not because I attacked him, because dependency without respect is fragile. Marcus finally turned back to me, anger rising to mask fear. So this is revenge? No, I said steadily. This is standards. You're destroying Dad's legacy. No, you risked it the moment you publicly disrespected a critical vendor. Dad stood frozen between us. Marcus lowered his voice. What do you want? That question revealed everything. He still thought this was transactional. I want nothing, I said. That's what you never understood. I built something independent of you. I don't need your validation. I don't need your contracts. He stared at me like someone realizing gravity works whether you believe in it or not. I picked up my purse. Data export will be delivered within 24 hours, I said professionally. After that, you're on your own. And I walked out. Behind me, phones were still ringing. By morning, clients would start asking harder questions. By Monday, contracts would start shifting. And within days, the real cost of arrogance would become visible, because shutting off access was only the beginning. The market was about to respond. Consequences don't knock, they arrive. The next morning, I woke up to 38 missed calls. Marcus, Dad, 2 unknown office numbers, 3 subcontractors. I didn't return any of them immediately. Instead, I opened my executive dashboard. Anderson Construction, status, terminated, data export, in progress, stakeholder notifications, delivered, clean, procedural, professional. By Monday, industry whispers had already started circulating. Construction is a small world. When a mid-sized firm suddenly loses access to its project coordination platform, people notice. By Tuesday afternoon, the first client withdrew. Riverside Development officially terminated their contract with Anderson Construction, citing operational instability and documentation risk. By Wednesday, 2 more followed. Without real-time scheduling integration, subcontractors couldn't synchronize. Inspections were missed. Material deliveries arrived at the wrong phases. What BuildStream automated seamlessly had become manual chaos, and chaos is expensive. Marcus called again that night. I answered this time. Rachel, he said, voice stripped of bravado. You've made your point. Please, we're bleeding contracts. I didn't make a point, I replied calmly. I made a decision. You're going to let the company collapse. You built your operations on a system you didn't understand, provided by someone you didn't respect. Silence. I didn't know it was you, he said. That's the problem. There it was, not malice, not sabotage, arrogance. He never imagined I could be significant enough to matter. Within 10 days, 9 of their 14 active projects were either paused or reassigned. Subcontractors prioritized firms with stable coordination systems. Legal notices began surfacing. 45 days later, Anderson Construction filed for restructuring. Dad called me the night the news became official. He's lost everything, he said quietly. No, I answered. He lost what he assumed was untouchable. There's a difference. Mom accused me of destroying the family. I didn't argue. People protect the story that makes them comfortable. But here's the truth. I didn't destroy anything. Marcus built a business dependent on a platform without securing contingency plans. He treated professional relationships casually. He mocked competence he didn't recognize. I simply stopped absorbing disrespect. 3 months later, BuildStream signed 52 new clients. Revenue increased. We expanded into commercial real estate integration. Our board approved an international rollout strategy. Success continued, quietly. Sometimes I think back to that moment in the country club ballroom, the laughter, the raised glass, the blueprint joke. If he had just stayed silent, if he had treated me with basic professional courtesy, if he had bothered to read the contract he signed, none of it would have happened. But here's the part people misunderstand about power. It doesn't shout. It doesn't argue. It doesn't need validation. It waits. And when necessary, it acts. Marcus thought I was pretending. What he learned too late is this. The person you underestimate is often the one holding the switch. And once it's flipped, there's no undo button.